What is up, everybody? Welcome back. I've actually had a lot of people asking me about these lexan windows that I made, so I'm going to do a video on this today. I've actually got a big chunk of lexan right here, and then there's another piece right here, and there's another piece over there against my wall. So this came in a giant roll. So I think it was maybe 8 feet by 4 feet, kind of like a sheet of plywood, but it came rolled up, which works better for me because last time I did this, I had to heat the lexan to get this curve. So I'm going to use this curve to my advantage this time. So basically what I did is on my sheet of lexan, like I said before, I'm going to use this curve to my advantage because the OEM windows have a curve in them. So basically all I did was I laid the window down, I took a Sharpie, and I went all the way around it. So except for down here, what I did was I left a chunk instead of just 2 little tabs. It's going to make it a little stronger when it comes time to mounting it. So yeah, if you want to figure out how to get the windows out, go check out my old video on gutting the doors. But this is what I'm starting with. I've got both my windows mocked up. I'm using a jigsaw with a metal blade on it. So the smaller teeth will cut through this a little easier than like a wood style blade. Alright guys, so I've got my cutouts. I've got the passenger side, the driver's side I kind of already wedged in. So this is it. This is the shape of the window. And like I said before, because this came in a wrapped up coil, I've already got the curve I need in it to match the door, which is saves so much time. Now I'm just gonna put this into the door. So just like removing, you slide it in through the front, you line it up in the grooves, let's make sure I'm lined up right. Now I cut them a little wide so they fit snug. That way once they're in there, they're nice and snug and I don't really have to worry too much about and sliding down on their own, even though they're going to be bolted in place. So that's it. Now I'm going to move on to the rear. The rear is going to be the same thing. I'm going to lay out my piece of lexan. I'm going to put the glass on top of it and trace it. Alright, got my new lexan cut out. I've got to remove this 10mm here and this 10mm here on the back door so I can get a little play on this bar so I can get the old lexan out, and I'm going to test fit the new one in. Old lexan's out. This is the reason why I wanted to make some new ones. So apparently my mounting idea was not a good one because it cracked here. Got my new cutout piece. I'm trying to fit this in. see how she goes. This one actually fits a lot snugger than the last one, which is good. So I've got my new lexan windows in on the passenger side and the driver's side. Now I'm going to get to work on some mounts. So I'm going to start with the back door. What I've come up with is I put 2 holes in my door right here. See? So what I'm going to end up doing is taking a bolt, going through, and I'm going to mark the lexan. And in doing so, I should be able to put 2 bolts through, and I'll show you how I set up the bolts so I can keep tension. You see how this kind of flops? So I can keep tension on the lexan so it creates a good seal right along here. Sorry. What I'm using is an 832 bolt by 2.5 inches long. So what I'm going to do to find my spot where I'm going to drill my hole is I'm going to just have a regular Sharpie paint marker. I'm going to put some paint along the end of it. I'm going to put it through the hole. Make sure this is all the way up. Alright. Make sure it's level. And just push on the lexan. Then I'm going to do it again. Alright, so I'll show you what I come up with. I'm not capping the marker just yet because the marks are very, very small. Let's see if you can see it. Very small marks right here. You barely make it out. One mark. And another mark. I'm sure there's better ways to do this, but this is just what I've come up with now. So what I'm going to do is take my paint marker and mark right where those marks are, just so I know where to drill once I take the lexan back out. I'm going to start making these holes. Just using a small drill bit to start this. Alright, so I've got my 2 pilot holes. Now I'm just going to take a step bit or a unibit, depends on what you like to call it. And I'm just going to step up until I know I have a hole big enough to fit that 8/32 bolt. Alright, so I've got the holes made in the lexan now. I'm going to reinstall it back into the door. Okay. Now I've got my 2 bolts, and I've got a bunch of nuts and washers. So I end up with 6 nuts and 4 washers, right? And I'm going to show you why. So on the bolt, what I'm going to do is I'm going to thread. Once I get the bolt through the hole, I'm going to take one of the nuts, I'm going to thread it through. What this nut is for, this nut is going to hold the bolt in place on this part of the door. So now the bolt will somewhat become a stud. And then after that, I'm going to put another nut on. So this nut will essentially act as a spacer. So I don't need anything here But I need this nut here so I can rest the lexan on it. And I can adjust this nut to push the lexan as much as I want out towards the door seal. And then finally I'll take one last nut from the other side and sandwich the lexan in between. But I'm going to have washers in between to give a little more stability for the lexan. So I'm going to take care of this now, and then once they're both in, I'll get up nice and close and show you guys exactly how it looks. Alright, both bolts are in place. So basically, if you look from underneath, sorry about the light, I'll focus on this one. Got the head of the bolt right here on this side, and I've got that one nut right here to stabilize the bolt. Then I've got this space of thread. I've got the other nut with the washer right here, and then from the back, there's my hand. From the back, I've got another nut with a washer holding the lexan in place. So everything's nice and sturdy. Door closes nice and solid. Window's not going anywhere. Alright, so the front is actually a little more complicated, or maybe a little more complicated than the rear. So I kind of cut the lexan the way the original glass was. The original glass has two tabs like these at the bottom of it to mount your window regulator to. But since, again, I have gutted doors, no window regulator, I am going to use those two tabs and a bracket that bolts to the door to hold this lexan in place. What I ended up doing, since there is a gap back here between, almost 2 fingers, what I ended up doing was taking a tape measure, and the measurement I get from the lexan to the door is just about an inch. You see it's just touching there, just about an inch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a bracket that is flat here up against the lexan, flat here up against the lexan where I already have 2 holes, and that steps up, runs across this part of the door, and then steps back down to run across the lexan. So it'll keep, just like we did in the back door, it'll keep pressure on this window seal, and I can mount this here. I went ahead and made the bracket. It's not the prettiest. I'm probably gonna make another one. I've got a little twist in here, but that's because of the angle of the glass. But anyways, see, both of them have a little twist. Anyways, what I'm using, see, I made this step, which is about 1 inch high. Again, 1 inch high over here. So now this is gonna fit here just like so. And those holes are gonna line up more or less with the lexan window. The holes line up there, this hole lines up in the middle. For those of you wondering, this is a nut cert or a riv nut. People call it different things. See this knurling right here, these little ridges? They help grab the metal and they leave you with a nut. Let's see if it focuses. Yeah, you see the threads inside? So to make this work, there's a special tool. You guys can Google it, or I'll leave a link in the description, but it basically works like a rivet, and once you crimp it into the hole, it stays in place, and now you've got threads for a bolt. So with this, let me grab some hardware. Got some stuff over here. Let's start with this one. Hopefully I can do this with one hand. Put this in here, line that up. Let's see how good I am at this. If I can reach. Ooh, look at that. Alright, so I'm going to thread just a regular 10mm bolt that you can find anywhere in these cars. There. And then these holes line up nice right here. See? Hole lines up good. The hole lines up pretty good. Probably got to move the lexan a little bit, probably shift it. But yeah, you guys get the idea. I'm going to bolt this up and then I'll give you a closer look. There it is, bolted in place. I just use another two 10 millimeter bolts to come from the back and just a nut up front. So now you can see I have the space here to this door, and then I have the second half on the lexan. And like you see, just a regular 10 millimeter bolt with a washer on it, just to help give the lexan some stability. And this is just a regular 10 millimeter nut. It's just from a titanium bag of parts that I had. But yeah, so now the lexan is pretty much in place here on the door. You know, maybe you can see from the top a little bit. But yeah, it takes up the space from there to the door. You guys get the idea. And now it closes nice, solid, good to go. Well guys, that's it. There you have it. I've got both front and rear lexan windows installed. This little one here I did, you can hear it's plastic too. I did that one a while ago, and you can also tell the tint from this one to the back one. But yeah, so all the doors now have lexan windows in them. So that is some good weight savings. So I hope this video was helpful for you guys. I hope you guys, can take some notes from this and maybe put it to your builds, or not. Maybe you just want to check out, see what I was up to. But anyways, I appreciate you guys big time. Yeah, as always, keep on building. Build what you want to build for yourself. Be well, stay safe, and I catch y'all on the next one.